Hi, I'm Greg Ulan with Reynolds & Reynolds, and this is Connected. We're live at the NADA show, and right now I get to sit down with Cliff Banks. If you don't know who Cliff is, I think you've been hiding under a rock probably, but Cliff is the founder of the Banks Report and AUTOVATE. Cliff, thanks so much for joining me.
Great to be back, Greg. I think, what is this, 4 or 5 years now?
Yeah, right in a row. We stack them up.
Right.
I love it. I appreciate you always sitting down, though.
I love it. It's fun.
So you've been to a lot of NADA shows.
Maybe 26 now.
26.
I think. Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Tell me about it. Yeah.
Have you ever seen anything like this one? Obviously, we had the weather, right? So people getting in, and there's
Sure.
some conferences leading up to NADA. So I think you were here early.
Yes.
But, just it's been a struggle for everybody to get in.
Well, I was telling someone last night that, I've been here since Monday, and I actually don't remember what life was before this trip. I mean, I think I'm really just living in the moment right now. It's been surreal. It's probably, I was fortunate because I was here,
right?
Everything was closed, but still, we were able to find food, and I was able to get from place to place on foot in the blizzard, and it was really blizzard conditions. What was interesting was, in the first 5 hours here on Tuesday, we had more snow on the ground than we have gotten in Detroit combined the last 2 years. I mean, so yeah. So when you talk about wild. Surprise, I mean, maybe, but yeah, it was, it's surreal. You got to hand it to both NADA, and I think, you really watch companies and people in action on just making things work, adapting, and being creative on traveling, and really jumping in and helping each other out.
Yeah.
Finding rides, people posting on different social media sites about rideshare to NADA.
Yeah.
And I think it was, I think that really speaks well of the industry, and because, our news all the time is filled with all of the bad stuff,
right?
But really, I think we saw some really good things in action this week. So, hey, look, it's going to cost a lot of money, a lot of people, including salespeople on the ground whose bonuses, are dependent on, selling this week, and so it's going to be somewhat painful, but yet nothing, we'll get through it.
Yeah. Well, you said seeing people reach out to each other and getting rides and stuff.
Right.
It's so interesting because we all know it, but when something like this happens, just how small and tight knit our industry is, right?
Yeah.
You hear that kind of 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
Right.
And
Yes.
And it's kind of like that. I mean, I think everybody in this town right now, probably within 7 points or less, knows everybody else. Right. Like there's
and
so many points
Bacon
of
is going to be at a party tonight.
Is it?
At the Orpheum.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I remember seeing that.
Yeah.
That's so funny. But no, I mean, we are just such a close knit kind of community.
Yes,
so it's been great. So since you've been here, what has been kind of the biggest surprise of the show for you? Anything stand out that you're kind of like, wow, I didn't expect that. Nothing.
No, it's been a really quiet show on a lot of levels. And I think that if we were going to see some big news, it probably would have happened by now.
Yeah.
But the theme, AI seems to be probably the theme.
Yeah.
The conferences leading up to the event, and there's a few. I mean, JD Power and in the American Financial Services Association, a lot of projections about sales are coming up. We've got some unique dynamics going on with used cars, lease maturities. Yeah. We're right in the trough of lease returns.
Yep.
So that's going to keep the used car market, I think, profitability healthy.
Yeah.
So one thing that was a bit of a surprise, I think, at the JD Power event the other day, we were talking about the SAR, which is, I mean, we sold almost 16 million units or right around there this year, but the environment is still really healthy in that many of the automakers have maintained a semblance of price discipline from where we were, during COVID, the COVID years. And we were wondering, if that was going to continue, but now it's not brand by brand. And obviously you got to factor into manufacturing. Some brands are really dealing with hundreds of vehicles still on the ground, but for the most part, as it averages out, it's been a pretty rational market.
Yeah.
If we go up to 17 million, there's some perspective that it could be almost disastrous in terms of the financial infrastructure for the automakers. So where we are now, 16, 16.3, 16.5, we get beyond that, then we're really in a heavy incentive market and discounting market, and does not bode well long term.
Do you think that's where we'll be for 25, right in the kind of
probably 16.3? Yeah, I'm guessing. Yeah.
No, I mean that's pretty consistent. I think across the board, you hear people talking, somewhere. I mean, within 500,000 of that, right? Like,
right. But it really so much depends upon the current administration too. Mm-hmm. It's a wild card, and it's unpredictable. Yeah. In a normal, and we haven't been in normal for years, I guess. But with Democrats, you knew what you had. You know what to expect, and you can plan. And ADA can plan. They know what they're lobbying. They know what the battles are going to be. They know what they have to deal with. Right. Now it's all over the place. Yeah. So, it keeps it somewhat. It keeps an ADA on its toes because one executive action can be both good and bad. It can, for dealers and me. So where do you, if you're Mike Stanton, where do you focus? Like, what are the top three things that you're lasered in? Yeah, clearly Mike is in an ADA. They've planted the flag in the ground. They drew the line in the sand with Volkswagen and Honda on the direct to consumer play, and it's gotten pretty, at least between Volkswagen and ADA, it's gotten, in the state of California right now, it's gotten pretty, I don't know if ugly is too strong a word or not. I mean, in the press, it's playing out. And look, an ADA has to draw the line. Well, yeah. Because, look, you give an inch, they're going to want they're going to take a mile. Well, at the end of the day, the law is the law. Right. Right? I mean, that's kind of... But Volkswagen's argument is, well, Scott's not part of it. I mean, good luck. I mean, go argue it. It's fine. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe they'll get a friendly judge somewhere, but this thing could go all the way to the Supreme Court. Yeah, you're right. So they, but I don't understand Honda getting in bed with Sony. I don't understand Volkswagen with Scout, because these are really good brands. I mean, tell me there's not a dealer in this country that wouldn't jump at selling Scout or a Honda Field. These companies could pick whatever dealer they want. They can pick the best dealers in the 100%. Country. They could build a great, phenomenal experience and process from the ground up and win. Yeah. But they're going to go this route and just create a lot of unnecessary noise in the market. And frankly, the direct-to-consumer model doesn't work. It doesn't work. It hasn't worked in Europe. Played out over and over, and we've seen it time and time again. And they're going back to the dealer model in Europe. So what is it about that? Like, what is going on in the head of an executive at a Volkswagen or a Honda where they're like, you know what, this is the right answer? Like, what? I don't understand the argument when we see over and over again the facts point to the opposite. Right. Do you like what? Well, I think it's, a lot of noise in the media about getting rid of the dealer body and talking about how bad the dealer model is. And that's all you see on Twitter and on social media when it comes up on LinkedIn. I think, Musk has, with Tesla, he's the one person that's figured it out, but he didn't have an existing dealer body. That's the big difference there. Yeah. And I think any company, I think a Rivian, Tesla has every right and should be able to sell their vehicles however they want. Right. If they don't have an existing dealer body. Yeah. No, I mean, again, the law is the law, right? And exactly. That's the way it reads. And that's okay. But I just, and you think about Tesla, right? Specifically. Right. It's been a long road to hoe to get to where they are. Well, it has. And they also, you look at it from a volume perspective, and it's not a massive number of vehicles. They've done a great job, and I don't want to take anything away from them. But at the end of the day, it's not a massive number of vehicles. And I think in most people's minds, they are kind of the category king or category queen of EVs. Yeah, right. So if your mindset is, we're doing an EV or we're doing a different brand or we're going to launch this thing a different way,
you're still just one of, however many.
Right.
Right. Whereas Tesla started out 15, 16 years ago, creating this category essentially and building it up. So now they can do whatever they want.
Right.
And it wasn't an easy road. I mean, there's all these different iterations of, they had physical stores, right?
Yeah.
They had shopping mall stores. They had service centers. Like they've tried everything. And so they've tried to kind of figured it out a little bit for their stuff. But for everybody else, I don't think it just hasn't worked.
No. Right.
So I don't know. I know you get a little passionate about it.
Yeah, I do.
I
just shake my head at it because some of it's just so unnecessary.
Mm-hmm.
But it is what it is. But it's going to play out and it'll be.
Yeah.
But so back to your question, where does Stanton direct his attention? I think right now, obviously that, but also really trying to get a handle on, what the federal government is going to be doing moving forward. You have the regulatory issues and environment, which is supposed to exponentially get worse this year for the retail space. I don't know. I think it's going to be a friendlier regulatory environment, but I don't know how far that friendliness is going to go. It's not, you just don't sign an executive order and things don't happen overnight. As much as, President Trump would like to think that, I think it's going to take a lot longer, and some of these battles are going to be fought. And there's a lot of institutional, I don't want to, not bureaucracy, but institutional inertia. Or hey, we've been going down this certain road, So, so they certainly have to. And you look now, you've got the whole tariff question. You have there's just so much that we're going to be working through the next 5 years.
Yeah. So thinking about that next 5 years, then another one that I think will play out interestingly over the next half decade or so is EVs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And obviously that has a lot to do with what does happen from a tariff perspective, what does happen from a regulatory perspective on mandates. Obviously, some of that stuff is probably being rolled back as far as emission standards and things like that. So where do you see, EVs were really, really, really hot for, a good 2 years. And we're just starting to see that momentum kind of scale back.
I think we go back through the years over the previous years that we've done the podcast. And I think I've been pretty consistent with my prognosis, prediction by 2030, 10-15% EV share. Now, I had a conversation with Liz Creer from JD Power, who runs their EV research and knows as much, if not more than anybody in this country about the consumer and understands the EV market. She thinks it's going to be higher, than that 20 to 30%. And we'll see. I still think 10 to 15. It's my. Look, 15% is doubling where we are now.
No, you're
really.
Right.
So that, and 4 or 5 years is not. It's not a long time in some ways. So the biggest one of the intriguing factors on this is just the lack of satisfaction, or the immense dissatisfaction with charging. In this country, 1 out of every 5 charging attempts fails. And you would think California, which has been very aggressive in building out a charging infrastructure, that their satisfaction would be higher. No, it's the worst in the country. And the reason why is because it hasn't kept pace with the EV sales in that state. So, so what does that mean? Well, we know the government's not going to be investing in EV infrastructure now.
Right.
I don't think the private capital markets are going to be too keen on investing either, because they're seeing an environment now moving forward that's not friendly to EVs. And I said this the other day at the conference I was speaking at. I think we're going to see more of a rational market-based approach to EV sales. The wild card here is this 12, 13 states that are intent and hell-bent, I would say, on keeping on driving EV sales and maintaining a 30 to 36% EV share, are creating that. So there are states. I was talking with NADA outgoing chairman Gary Gilchrist the other night, and he's like, in his state, he goes, Cliff, there's no way in 2020 we got to sell 30% EV. There's no way. I'm not going to get any inventory.
Right.
He goes, Idaho is going to blow me off the map. Dealers in Idaho are going to just ship their cars to our state, to customers in our state. And because we're not going to get the inventory, customers don't want it.
Right.
So the states, so many states. I mentioned to him, well, maybe, we're going to start seeing, a tide of more conservative based, politicians. But he goes, it's going to take a while.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen overnight. So I think there's some states it's going to be really challenging for dealers over the next couple of years.
Yeah. Do you think manufacturers want to go to EVs? Like, not if they're not pushed, do they want to go there? Because I think about it from a consumer's perspective, and I don't think there's a ton of necessarily resistance to it.
No,
but I also don't think that as a consumer there's anything broken with today's world, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're very concerned about the environment. I think that's the one argument that's consistent, right? Is
people aren't buying EVs because they're concerned about the environment. I mean, that's a very just a very minor.
But I don't know. Like, I know.
Yeah.
What's why switch?
Right. I know there is why. No, right.
And so I think, and why I bring that up is if manufacturers do want to move in that direction, if there are, if that's the future, right? I think my opinion is it's a marketing problem, right? We have to create a problem that consumers want to move away from to go to EVs. And we don't have a problem right now. I mean, I love my car, right? I'm sure you love all 17 of your cars.
4, but yeah, close.
No, I mean, there's nothing inherently broken with what we have today.
No.
So if we want to move to this EV world, we have to create a problem. Right. And positioning.
I love what you said, your point there, because a couple of years ago, a lot of people would talk about, well, this transition is going to happen like the horse to the car. I'm thinking, well, no, I mean, because the horse was a problem.
Right.
I mean, if you read history and look at what was going on in the cities and in the city of New York in the late 1800s with the horses, the number of horses dying every day, the diseases, I mean, it was a huge problem, and cars became an easy solution.
Yep.
And but there isn't a problem. I mean, cars aren't. Not invisible. Right. So, to your point, I think it's, you've got some challenges. And globally, if you look at the global market, the EV phenomena is an incentive-driven phenomena.
It is.
Period.
Yep.
There's no country in the world that sells EVs without aggressive incentives, whether it's customer incentives, company incentives, government-forced action. It doesn't happen without it being forced.
No, you're right. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Right.
Hey, one other thing I wanted to pick your brain on. We have actually in our booth this year, Shiva, a company that we made an investment in.
We're really intrigued by that investment. Yeah. It's been a couple of years now, hasn't it?
Yeah. So we've continued to work with them. And there's something that you've talked about for years around the connected car.
Yes.
And this dream of being able to, hey, you need an oil change, here's dealership XYZ.
Yeah, the car talking to you, Alexa or Siri or Gemini or whoever it is.
They built it.
Right, yeah.
So you got to see it. All right. So they actually built it. They started out with like the payment stuff, right? Where you go up to a gas pump and you can pay from your car, which is also very cool. But they've actually built out the appointment piece that you've described for like 5 years. So you got
time the dealership service department. Wow. Okay.
It's pretty cool.
That is. All right. That's good. Wow.
So we'll have to hook you up before you leave so you can get a quick demo of it.
But, Yes. Yeah.
So that one's something that's pretty exciting. Anything else though that you've heard either on the M&A front or anybody else that's maybe not that well known yet, but it's kind of an up and comer that you've got your eye on?
Well, it's really, I think, the word over the next few years is just going to be how AI impacts the industry across the board and our lives across the board. I mean, I try to take a more rational, feet on the ground perspective, but yet I understand that this is really cool technology, and what we're watching and seeing play out. I do think one of the biggest stories of the year so far has come out of CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, with the partnership between Toyota and NVIDIA. They've had a long partnership, but what they're planning on doing in terms of with the vehicles and moving forward and with AI. And what makes it intriguing too is just the just the exponential advancement in these sensors, these chips.
Yeah.
And so, it's when the chairman CEO of NVIDIA is talking, obviously he's selling, but he knows what he's talking about. And he's pretty much has delivered on what he's been saying. So it'll be interesting to see the next couple of years. So I think we're going to see a lot of different things over the next 5 years.
Yeah.
M&A front right now, pretty quiet at the moment. Cars.com announced an acquisition getting into the wholesale market, which could be a big play for them. I mean, it was a startup in a very early stage company. But other than that, there's been no other announcements, and I'm not expecting anything significant for a little while. I know there's a lot of companies that are in play, or and one of the things that, and obviously one of my passions is the whole M&A and investment front.
Right.
And it's been a few years ago, it wasn't a conversation. Maybe 10 years ago. Now there's a bunch of VC firms now that have sprout up. Dealers have been investing as limited partners. Last night I was at an event. Warburg Pincus has come in back and they've been in and out over the years, but they started hosting this dinner 5-6 years ago, and they've kept at it, and they've done a couple of huge deals. But the ecosystem with investors, and so your folks were there last night. And there's several events like that. Many conferences, couple of breakfasts, dinners, and just the role that capital plays in both the advancement of technology, but also helping people create unbelievable wealth, unimagined wealth. Entrepreneurs seeing a solution or seeing something in fixing. I mean, Shiva guys, folks. So I think there's a lot of excitement, a lot of energy, and it's added a component to NADA that we haven't seen, that we had not seen, a few years ago. So it's fun to be part of that and see that. Yeah.
Good. Well, Cliff, what haven't we talked about that we should? Anything I didn't ask you that I should have?
Wow. I don't know. It's almost 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning at NADA in New Orleans, no less. I'm sure I'll walk out of here going, "Oh man!" But no, I think we covered it. It's always a great conversation, Greg.
Yep, love sitting down with you. Appreciate the time as always, and we'll I'll walk you over. We'll meet up with those Shiva guys.
Great, fantastic.
All right, thanks, Cliff.
Thanks. Yep.
A big thank you to Cliff Banks for joining me at NADA. We do get the morning slot usually, but Cliff, you did a great job as always, and I still owe you that demo of Shiva. For all of you out there, make sure to look out for the AUTOVATE conference coming in the fall. It's always a great show. Cliff puts on a great event, so check that out in November. Before we hop off, don't forget you can watch or listen to all episodes of Connected on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify podcasts, and make sure to hit subscribe so you're notified every week here in February when new episodes are released. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.